So we'll begin. It's 4:30. And we are in Book 1, Canto 3. And this is, of course, a very extraordinary canto because Sri Aurobindo is telling us of his own experiences in the voice of Ashwapati. And so we have seen that the Creatrix, the Divine Mother, is creating everything, and there's this play between Purusha and Prakriti. We begin with the line, "A recorder of the inquiry of the gods," on page 39, about 12 lines from the bottom. And it has this extraordinary line in just a moment. A recorder of the inquiry of the gods, spokesman of the silent seeings of the Supreme, she brought immortal words to mortal men. This is the Divine Mother. Above the reason's brilliant, slender curve, because the reason doesn't have the vision. Reason can only put things together through the mental processes of the ignorance that we live in, body, life, and mind. So above the reason's brilliant, slender curve, released like radiant air dimming a moon, broad spaces of a vision without line or limit swam into his spirit's ken. This is Ashwapati having more and more experiences. And even more now, oceans of being met his voyaging soul, calling to infinite discovery, timeless domains of joy and absolute power stretched out, surrounded by the eternal hush. The ways that lead to endless happiness along a naked curve in bornless self. Bornless means without a limit. And the word self is capitalized. So I would like to share some of Sri Aurobindo's writings on the self. From the essays on the Gita, he writes, "The self, capital S, is our self-existent being." And in a letter on yoga, he says, "The self is being, not a being." By self is meant the conscious, essential existence, one in all. And then in the synthesis of yoga, he shares with us, in relation to the individual, the supreme is our own true and highest self, that which ultimately we are in our essence, that of which we are in our manifested nature, a spiritual knowledge moved to arrive at the true self in us, must reject, as the traditional way of knowledge rejects, all misleading appearances. It must discover that the body is not our self, our foundation of existence. It is a sensible form of the infinite. It is the soul, the inner being, that is the true self in everyone. The points that run through the closed heart of things shadowed the indeterminable line that carries the everlasting through the years. What is an indeterminable line? Something to settle or decide with finality. So these points that run through the closed heart of things shadowed the interminable line that carries the everlasting through the years. Everlasting is capitalized here, which means it is God, the eternal. The magician order of the cosmic mind, coercing the freedom of infinity with the stark array of nature's symbol facts and life's incessant signals of event, transmuted chance recurrences into laws, a chaos of signs into a universe. Now I have to go through quite a few minutes on this section to share with you what these things mean. First of all, the cosmic mind. Sri Aurobindo tells us in quite a long section of the Life Divine, nevertheless, the fact of this intervention from above, the fact that behind all our original thinking or authentic perception of things, there is a veiled, a half-veiled, or a swift, unveiled intuitive element, is enough to establish a connection between mind and what is above it. It opens a passage of communication and of entry into the superior spirit ranges. There is also the reaching out of mind to exceed the personal ego limitation, to see things in a certain impersonality and universality. Impersonality is the first character of cosmic self. Universality, non-limitation by the single or limiting point of view, is the character of cosmic perception and knowledge. What Sri Aurobindo is telling us here is that this cosmic mind is impersonal. Because if it were personal, it would get involved with all the mess we have made here on the earth. So he's saying that this character of cosmic perception and knowledge, this tendency, is therefore a widening, however rudimentary, of these restricted mind areas towards cosmicity, towards a quality which is the very character of the higher mental planes, towards that superconscient cosmic mind, which we have suggested must, in the nature of things, be the original mind action, of which ours is only a derivative and inferior process. And then another passage from the Life Divine, which is so important, I have to share it with you. If we accept the Vedic image of the Sun of Truth, we may compare the action of the higher mind to a composed and steady sunshine, the energy of the illumined mind beyond it to an outpouring of massive lightnings of flaming sun stuff. Still beyond can be met a yet greater power of the truth force, an intimate and exact truth vision, truth thought, truth sense, truth feeling, truth action, to which we can give, in a special sense, the name of intuition. At the source of this intuition, we discover a superconscient cosmic mind in direct contact with the supramental truth consciousness, an original intensity determinant of all movements below it and all mental energies. Not mind as we know it, but an overmind that covers, as with the wide wings of some creative oversoul, this whole lower hemisphere of knowledge ignorance, links it with that greater truth consciousness, while yet at the same time, with its brilliant golden lid, it veils the face of the greater truth from our sight, intervening with its flood of infinite possibilities as at once an obstacle and a passage in our seeking of the spiritual law of our existence, its highest aim, its secret reality. Now, there's a lot there, and I'll try to make it a little clearer. We live in the ignorance, body, life, and mind. Above the mind, there is first the higher mind, which Sri Aurobindo spoke of first. Now, the higher mind he calls a kind of steady sunshine. But above the higher mind is the illumined mind, which is a much greater power of truth. And above the illumined mind is the intuitive mind, which sees everything very widely. And above the intuitive mind is the overmind, which is very, very high, but not yet the supermind. So we have higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, overmind, supermind. And then we say that he says that there's a golden lid over this greater truth that's hiding us from its sight. And Sri Aurobindo wrote to a disciple once this beautiful passage. A veil behind the heart, a lid over the mind, keep us from the divine. Love and devotion rend the veil, and in the quietude of the mind, the lid thins and vanishes. Coercing the freedom of infinity, coercing, compelling it, dominating or controlling it with the stark array of nature's symbol facts. And there's much to share with you on nature, but I'll go on a little bit and we'll pick it up later. And life's incessant signals of event. When something is incessant, it's continuing without interruption. It's ceaseless, unending. Transmuted chance recurrences into laws. When we transmute something, we change it from one nature into another, into a different substance, or a different form, or a different condition. A chaos of signs into a universe. Out of the rich wonders and the intricate whirls of the spirit's dance with matter as its mask. How beautiful, huh? Out of the rich wonders and the intricate whirls. Whirls are coils or spirals. Of the spirit's dance with matter as its mask. So, we know that everything is something other than we see it. This chair is not a chair. That table is not a table. It's a movement of different energies, of different vibrations. So the spirit is dancing with matter as its mask. It's hiding behind matter, but it's the spirit's dance. And matter now, this is extremely important, and we have to go through it. Because matter is the form of substance of being which the existence of Satchidananda assumes when it subjects itself to this phenomenal action of its own consciousness and force. Matter is the body or field of a consciousness hidden within it. The material universe, a form and movement of the spirit. This is Sri Aurobindo, from Sri Aurobindo's book, The Renaissance in India. So we have to go through this. Above the supermind, we have the world of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Existence, Sat, consciousness, Chit, delight, Ananda. And matter is only the body or the field of a consciousness hidden within it. The material universe, a form and movement of the spirit. This is extraordinary. I remember once, and I've quoted it to a few of you earlier at another meeting, Sri Aurobindo writes to Dilip Kumar Roy, who was his disciple for many years, the earth is a conscious being, and the world is only a form it takes to manifest. When we think about this deeply, that the earth is a conscious being, it's not just some mass of a planet circling around a sun. Not at all. It's a conscious being. And that conscious being has taken this form of earth to manifest. In the Life Divine, again, he says, the creative energy in matter is a movement of the power of the spirit. Science has not yet reached this understanding. They understand that there is a creative energy. They understand that there is a consciousness in this world. But they don't still see that the creative energy in matter is a movement of the power of the spirit. Matter itself cannot be the original and ultimate reality. At the same time, the view that divorces matter and spirit and puts them as opposites is unacceptable. Matter is a form of spirit. a habitation of spirit. So we must honor the earth and work in whatever way we can to purify the toxicity that has been put upon her, the pollution of our lakes and streams and rivers and ocean, the waste, the millions of tons of waste gathered all over the world. The pollution of the air, so many things. So matter is only so much mobile energy vibrating intensely into form. The balance of the world's design grew clear. Its symmetry of self-arranged effects, managed in the deep perspectives of the soul, and the realism of its elusive art, its logic of infinite intelligence, its magic of a changing eternity. Can tell him the page number. This is very, very important, so we'll go through it carefully. We're seeing that it is thank you. We're seeing that the balance of the world's design grew clear. So extraordinary. This is not a world of chance. It is a world that has been designed by the superior intelligence. You may call it God, you may call it the divine, whatever. But now Ashwapati, the father of Savitri, is beginning to see that this world's design has grown clear. And its symmetry of self-arranged effects, in other words, its similarity, its correspondence, its proportion of self-arranged effects that are managed in the deep perspectives of the soul, and the realism of its elusive art, its logic of infinite intelligence, its magic of a changing eternity. That's an extraordinary line. Its magic of a changing eternity. The eternity is constantly changing. Nothing is fixed. Even we are changing every moment. Dead skin is coming from our arms and our feet, and other things are changing in us. Our hair is graying, etc. So there is a magic, he calls it a magic, of a changing eternity. A glimpse was caught of things forever unknown. The letters stood out of the unmoving word. And here I have to take the time to speak to you about the word. Sri Aurobindo capitalizes it here. And he says such powerful things. The word is a sound expression of the idea. In the supraphysical plane, when an idea has to be realized, one can, by repeating the word expression of it, produce vibrations which prepare the mind for the realization of the idea. That is the principle of the mantras and of japa. One repeats the name of the divine, and the vibrations created in the consciousness prepare the realization of the divine. It is the same idea that is expressed in the Bible. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. It is creation by the word. And Vivekananda tells us that thoughts can also have a power without the word being expressed. A thought can go forth from me to you, and you may catch it, or it may affect you. Thoughts are things, it is said in the West. In the Life Divine, he says, the silent and the active Brahman are not different, opposite and irreconcilable entities, the one denying, the other affirming a cosmic illusion. They are one Brahman in two aspects, positive and negative, and each is necessary to the other. It is out of this silence that the word which creates the worlds forever proceeds. For the word expresses that which is self-hidden in the silence. Again, for the word expresses that which is self-hidden in the silence. In the immutable, nameless origin was seen emerging as from fathomless seas the trail of ideas that made the world. And you see why we take so much time going through one canto. Because we must begin to understand Sri Aurobindo's definition of words, of concepts. And so here is the word idea in a capital I. Now, the dictionary tells us the idea is something such as a thought or conception that potentially or actually exists in the mind as a product of mental activity. But what does Sri Aurobindo say? In the Supramental Manifestation, very small little book, he says, the idea is the realization of a truth in consciousness, as the fact is its realization in power. And in another quote he says, the idea is not a reflection of the external fact which it so much exceeds. Rather, the fact is only a partial reflection of the idea which has created it. Very, very important, huh? And then he goes further in the Life Divine, and he wants to tell us what this idea, how he understands this idea. He has created a term, real-idea. and that real idea is a synonym for the supramental, or the Gnostic, the Gnosis. The view I am presenting goes farther in idealism. It sees the creative idea as real idea. That is to say, a power of conscious force, expressive of real being, born out of real being, and partaking of its nature, and neither a child of the void nor a weaver of fictions. It is conscious reality throwing itself into mutable forms of its own imperishable and immutable substance. The world is therefore not a figment of conception in the universal mind, but a conscious birth of that which is beyond mind into forms of itself. In supermind being, consciousness of knowledge and consciousness of will are not divided, as they seem to be in our mental operations. They are a trinity, one movement with three effective aspects. Each has its own effect. Being gives the effect of substance. We are beings, right? We are material beings. We're formed out of what? Well, we can say out of matter originally, but we have evolved so much further than that. So we are formed from the divine presence's action. Being gives the effect of substance, consciousness the effect of knowledge, of the self-guiding and shaping idea, of comprehension and apprehension. Will gives the effect of self-fulfilling force. But the idea is only the light of the reality illumining itself. It is not a mental thought, nor imagination, but effective self-awareness. It is real idea. And sown in the black earth of nature's trance, the seed of the Spirit's blind and huge desire, from which the tree of cosmos was conceived and spread its magic arms through a dream of space. So there's a lot to tell you here, and we still have 10 minutes, so let's go through the first part. We see the trail of ideas that made the world, and sown in the black earth of nature's trance, the seed of the Spirit's blind and huge desire, from which the tree of cosmos was conceived and spread its magic arms through a dream of space. These mystical lines, so filled with beauty, speak of the tree of cosmos being conceived from the seed of the Spirit's huge blind desire. And here desire is not the term we traditionally understand, but the tremendous aspiration of the Spirit's seed, which is blind, that is unseeing, again, not blind as we know it, simply unseeing. So the tree of cosmos is understood as the tree with its roots above in the heavens and its branches spread downward. And it's a common metaphor in many spiritual traditions. But now we have to look into this word spirit, because Sri Aurobindo capitalizes it again. And in one of his letters on yoga, he tells us, the spirit is the consciousness above mind, the Atman, or self, which is always in oneness with the divine. And in Essays on the Gita, he tells us, what we mean by spirit is self-existent being with an infinite power of consciousness and unconditioned delight in its being. Again, in the Life Divine, spirit is the soul and reality of that which we sense as matter. Matter is a form and body of that which we realize as spirit. And in the Human Cycle, wonderful book of Sri Aurobindo, the nature of the spirit is a spacious inner freedom and a large unity into which each man must be allowed to grow according to his own nature. And this is extremely important in the integral yoga, because there are no rules. There are no fixed moral codes, no fixed ways, do this, do that, because he says, the nature of the spirit is a spacious inner freedom and a large unity into which each man must be allowed to grow according to his own nature. And in the Synthesis of Yoga, he says, spirit is the crown of universal existence. Matter is its basis. Mind is the link between the two. Spirit is that which is eternal. Mind and matter are its workings. Spirit is that which is concealed and has to be revealed. Mind and body are the means by which it seeks to reveal itself. Again, from the Essays on the Gita, the spirit is the supreme being in his infinite consciousness, and the supreme nature is the infinity of power or will of being of the spirit, from which the tree of cosmos was conceived and spread its magic arms through a dream of space. Immense realities took on a shape. There looked out from the shadow of the unknown the bodiless namelessness that saw God born and tries to gain from the mortal's mind and soul a deathless body and a divine name. We have a few minutes left, and we'll look at the unknown. Sri Aurobindo capitalizes it. I've read it before, but it takes much repeating to understand it. The unknown is not the unknowable. It need not remain the unknown for us, unless we choose ignorance or persist in our first limitations. For to all things that are not unknowable, all things in the universe, there correspond in that universe faculties which can take cognizance of them. And in man, the microcosm, these faculties are always existent and at a certain stage capable of development. We may choose not to develop them where they are partially developed. We may discourage and impose on them a kind of atrophy. But fundamentally, all possible knowledge is knowledge within the power of humanity. The bodiless namelessness that saw God born and tries to gain from the mortal's mind and soul a deathless body and a divine name. This is essentially the core of the integral yoga. Sri Aurobindo wants us to have a deathless body, a divine body, a transformed body, so that there will no longer be any need of birth and dying, birth and dying. And this namelessness, this bodiless namelessness that saw God born, here we have to understand with our limited mind that there is an ineffable presence, a transcendent Purushottama, which is above all creation. And through the Satchidananda realms and the supramental, all the creation has been developed. A deathless body and a divine name. So we have 2 minutes left if there are any questions. Yes?
Is it a glimpse of the Canto 4?
Is it a glimpse? Is it a glimpse of what?
Of the Canto 4.
Of the
Canto 4. The next one.
well,
The secret knowledge.
actually, yes, that fills it out much more, Canto 4. But we have to remember that Canto 5 is related to Canto 1, because they're both the experiences of Ashwapati. But first, we can see when we look at Canto 3, and I have so much to go through here, but when we look at Canto 3, we see that it is the yoga of the soul's release. So Sri Aurobindo is experiencing all of these things, but in Canto 5, he has all of them and he can now create. And it's always been very strange and wonderful to me that Sri Aurobindo puts Canto 4 in between these two cantos. It's miraculous. Thank you all.